I have another chapter that brought me to tears from Winged Pharaoh. I say chapter, it's only a few pages. Let's see how many pages it is. 5 pages. 5 pages. Okay. It's the lion hunt now. You'd think this raises problems, wouldn't you? Hunt. And of course it did for her, because she was thinking of her pets and so on. And she says as much. I was 10 years old, and for the first time I was going with my father upon a lion hunt. For a long time, Benata had been giving me lessons with the throwing spear, and at last Harker, overseer of the royal chariots, had said that I was skilled enough in the driving of chariots. Harker turns up later in this little story. I wanted to go on a lion hunt to show Naya that I could share in all the things he did, so that when he grew up, if he went on an expedition against a warring country, he would take me with him into battle. Remember, she was going to be joint pharaoh with her brother. I wished we were hunting leopards or crocodiles and not lions, even though we hunted only old ones that attacked people working in the fields because they couldn't catch deer anymore. That's not the people, of course, that's the lions. I hope that the one we killed wouldn't look even a little like Natty. But if Father, who loved Shamba, didn't mind killing bad lions, I knew I was silly to worry that the ones we killed might be even very distant relations of Natty. There was a foreigner staying at the palace, a barbarian from the northeast. At least, Naya said he was. I hadn't seen him yet. I wore a boy's hunting dress, like Naya's. Naya's the brother, remember. The striped linen headdress, a pectoral of thick quilting embroidered in rays of fine gold work, wide gold armlets, and a linen kilt with a gold-studded leather belt to hold my hunting knife. And we're talking about Egypt, ancient of ancient Egypt. When I was ready, I went to the outer court, where the chariots waited. There were 40 of them lined up in a long row. Father's horse and Naya's and mine had ostrich plumes upon their heads, of scarlet and green, which were my father's colours. My granddad was a horseman to the Emperor's Urgene, and he kept the plumes that you put on the front of the horse's head, and he had them on his mantelpiece. I remember holding them. Yes. Granddad went to work in her stables when he was 8 years old. Left school, taught himself to read and write and such maths as he learned. At the end of each horse was its charioteer, who would hold the spear until the noble who drove the chariot was ready for it, and then he would take the reins until the lion was killed. On the other side of the courtyard were the hunting dogs, black, with pointed ears. Do you remember those sort of Egyptian-looking dark dogs? Like jackals, and they were held by the hound boys, 2 in each leash. My mother joined me at the top of the steps, as she was wearing a blue dress embroidered with scarlet fishes and wavy, watery lines of silver. Her cloak was of new violet dye, which is made from shellfish and comes from across the sea to the north. She wore a wreath of scarlet arbita flowers. They have a very sweet smell, and her favourite urgent, was scented with them. Unguent, yes, all right, unguent. I've forgotten what unguent means. Her eyes looked a little anxious, and I hoped, as she was not worried about my going out hunting. I would be in my 10-year-old, my goodness. I knew she wouldn't tell me if she were, for once I heard her say that if a mother was foolish enough to let her secret fears for her children shadow her day, she must not let this foolishness shadow the days of others. Mayat was not like that. Once when Naya and I went out sailing, our boat got stuck in a mud bank and we didn't get back till late at night. Now Mayat, I think, is the nurse, the mother, nanny, anyway, paid to look after the kids. Mayat was terribly angry with us just because she felt frightened herself. She never realised how unfair it was of her. It hadn't been our fault at all. We had had no food all day except a bunch of grapes that we had happened to pick on our way down to the boat. Mother wasn't a bit cross. She said how clever it had been to get off the bank at all, and she gave us a specially lovely supper in her room, although it was long past our bedtime. I asked Mother what the barbarian was like, and she laughed and said, "You mustn't call him that, because he's a king in his own country, even if he is a foreigner here. His name is Sadok." And when she stopped, because we heard people coming. It was Father and the guests for the hunt. When he saw me dressed as a prince, he put his arm round my shoulder and said to the man beside him, "See, I have another son." I hoped Naya heard. Naya was going along the line of horses, inspecting the harness, as though it needed it. Dear Naya, he can't help being a little grand sometimes. I thought Harker was coming with me, but Father told him to go with the barbarian. Harker remembers the captain of the horse. Right? Where are we? I looked at Sadok and thought, you may be a king in your own country, but here you are a fat man and very fat. He had a great black beard, all curled and greased like a decorated he-goat, and his hair was in ringlets, so heavily perfumed that you could smell him further away than a wild cat. Then we got into our chariots. Certain came with me. I had always been fond of him for giving me natty. My horse was black and white like an ibis, so I'd named him Moonshadow. Father headed the line of chariots out of the courtyard. Sadok went next because he was the chief guest, and then Naya and I. I waved to Mother before I went out of the gate and wheeled my chariot very fast through the pylon so she would see how good I was at driving and not worry about me. We went for about half an hour upriver to the plain of Arbor, which is a great marsh, dry at this season, where there were 2 old lions who took cattle when they went down to drink. The hound boys had gone ahead along the river bank, and when we reached the place to where they were going to drive the lions, the chariots were ranged in a great semicircle, with Father in the middle, Sadok on one side of him, and myself on the other. When a lion breaks cover, the 2 chariots between which the lion runs challenge each other, and between them lies the glory of the swift. In front of us there was a wide belt of high papyrus reeds, where the trackers had reported the lions to be sleeping in the heat of the day. We could hear the dogs working through the reeds and the shouting of the hound boys, who carried flaming torches of dry palm wood coated with resin, which gave off a heavy black smoke to frighten the lions. I saw the smoke nearing us. Some of the horses were getting very excited and pawing the ground, but Moonshadow was being very good. Certain said he was as steady with a lion as any other horse with its own stable dog. I suppose he had become used to Natty coming out with us. Natty's, remember, a pet lion. I wished I didn't keep on thinking of Natty. Suddenly there was a great roaring, and a lion broke from the reeds with 4 hound dogs yelping behind him. I was so excited I could hardly breathe. It seemed to be coming straight at me. I had the reins in my hands ready to give them to Certain. Then, at the last minute, it swerved and went between Father and Sardok. Father let Sardok go ahead. Sardok was clumsy, swerved his horse so fast that it stumbled, and when he threw his spear, he missed the lion altogether. It turned and sprang at him, but he cringed down, and the lion landed on Harker and knocked him onto the ground. Father, who was close behind, leapt from his galloping chariot. Remember, Father is the Pharaoh, and his head horseman, as his head chariot man, has got the lion landed on him. Father, who was close behind, leapt from his galloping chariot straight onto the lion. He dared not use his spear because of Harker, and he forced his arm under the lion's head and drove his knife into the lion's neck. Naya and I both reached Father just as he was pulling the dead lion off of Harker. I had thought Father was going to be killed, and I knew Naya had too, because he looked very bad. I felt so proud of Father, but I didn't say anything for fear of crying. Harker was still alive, but his left arm was badly torn. I sat on the ground and took his head on my lap. He opened his eyes and tried to smile at me, and then he closed them again. Father felt his heart and said that he still lived. Sardok had got out of his chariot. I hoped that the scorn Naya and I felt for him showed in our eyes, so he would know that although he was a king, in spirit he was a very little man. He said to Father, "That was a great risk to take for a servant." Father's voice was like granite as he answered, "No man would have done less for his friend." How dared Sardok speak to of Harker like that? Harker, who was worth 1,000 fat barbarians. Harker, who had loved us all since we were children, and who taught my father to drive. Sardok must have felt our contempt, for he walked away and talked to one of his own people. Well, this puts the early pharaohs in a very fine light, doesn't it? No man hath greater love than this, than that he give his life for his friends. A surprisingly uplifting spiritual book. Yes. I suppose I shouldn't read too much of it to you. You should get hold of a copy of the book yourself. Well, I want to give you enough of it to bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.